So welcome to Watercolor Gathering 2, the first more advanced watercolor gathering I will be doing. And this is working from a reference photo, which I call Blue and Birch. And we will be taking this particular photograph and trying to simplify it, but making the hydrangeas, the beautiful blue hydrangeas, the centerpiece of this painting, and making that building in the background fade way into the background and have very little detail. The first thing we're going to do is get some artist tape and tape out the birch trees, or mask out the birch trees with the tape. And you can see that I'm kind of bending the tape as I lay it on the paper. This is again artist tape. It's pH neutral, so it will not brown out any of the paper if you leave it on. Just have to be careful not to really press hard on it and make it stick too hard, because sometimes it does tear the paper as you lift it. So here I am adding a third birch tree. As you can see, I'm bending it again and placing it, making it the composition as I go. Next, we're going to totally saturate the page with water. And then we're going to apply paint and create a very soft background as a basis for our painting. And then once it's wet, I'm applying some Payne's Gray to start identifying the windows in that building. And I've also applied some more umber as the color of the roofs. And now I'm applying some Hooker's Green Light mixed with cadmium yellow, and then adding a little bit more Hooker's Green Light to it. And that's going to be the basis of the trees. And here we go, starting with the hydrangeas. First of all, I'm applying some cerulean blue. Just trying to stop the water running. So continuing with the cerulean blue as the basis for the hydrangea. And then we'll start adding some Hooker's Green Light and cadmium yellow to start laying in the background color of the shrub itself. And you can see the paper is really wet and it's running quite nicely. You have to work quickly with wet onto wet to make sure you get it done before everything dries. And you can see I'm dabbing the paintbrush if it's running too much, just dabbing on a paper towel and then sopping it up. And now I've changed to a just a round brush and adding in some more intense cerulean blue to further define the hydrangea flowers. And this part of the painting will take some time. It's a fairly complex painting. Now I've mixed up some raw umber, some burnt sienna, and I'm just going to apply the background of the earth underneath the shrub. It's got some pine bark mulch, and then going back in with some darker cadmium yellow and hooker's green light to put in some more vibrant greens and start defining some of the shadows. And remember, when you do wet into wet, it really dries a lot fainter than when you apply it. So that's always a thing to remember with using a wet into wet technique. But this is following the photograph and following the shadows and the light in the photograph. Now, while the paper is still damp, I'm going to use a sponge to add some more detail to the leaves. Just using a mixture of cadmium yellow and hooker's green light still. This just will add a little bit more texture. And then while the paper is still damp, I'm going in with some darker mixture of the hooker's green light and cadmium yellow just to add in some more shadows underneath the flowers. And mostly shadows go underneath the flowers when you're doing a shrub like this. This is the same technique as I've done previously with rose shrubs. And remembering to not make it a solid line around the flowers because the flowers have petals, so it creates a jagged line. Now we're going to work on the flowers of the hydrangea. The hydrangea flowers have lots of different colors in them, but mostly the cerulean blue and we're going to mix a little violet in with the cerulean blue. But before that, what I'm doing is I'm blotting up some of the color and taking away the hard edges that I created when I created the circles for the flowers. And then at the base of the flower, I'm putting some darker paint, a combination of the violet and cerulean blue. And then adding a little bit of that in a more watery color to the top of the flower. And I'll dab this up so then it becomes uneven, because when you look at the photograph you'll see that a lot of the flowers have a lot of white and even green in them, and some of the green will show through. And here again you can see I'm using a paper towel to just and I'm scrubbing with my rigger brush, so it's very gentle, and then I'm dabbing it with my paper towel just to create that differentiation between the light and the dark of the flower, and then adding in a little paint, some cerulean blue mixed with violet to create the impression of the small petals in each individual flower. Now I've used hooker's green light and some cadmium yellow to go in the background and create, using negative painting, the shape of the leaves that are in the foreground. And I've done that in several locations, and you can see in my painting where I've done that. I've also added in, I've loosened up some of the shadows with some water and just blotted it up to give it some depth. And then I've added some stems that are visible from the flower heads into the background of the shrubs. And as you can see in this image, you can see the negative painting. You can also see at the base of the shrub where I've put in some dry brushwork with sepia and burnt sienna to create the impression of pine bark mulch. So this concludes the part one of this blue and birch painting. There will be a second video to describe the rest of the techniques. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thanks so much. Have a great day.